Specialized Winterizing Your Greenhouse webinar. Our presenter today is Karen Meister, one of our greenhouse specialists here at Grower Supply. Today, Karen will explain why greenhouse winterization is important, the proper steps to take when doing so, and the products that are available to you. Without further ado, I will now hand the mic over to Karen and we'll get started. Thanks for joining us.
Hello everyone, thank you for taking the time to join us today to see if we can help you with suggestions on how to get your greenhouse ready for the wintertime. A little bit about me, been involved in some aspect of the horticultural industry for the last 30 years in everything from growing to retail to running a garden center and also helping with commercial growing of rhododendrons. So I'd like to take this time to welcome you again to our webinar. I'm going to cover a few different categories today. We're going to talk a little bit about our company, why winterizing your greenhouse is so important, the advantages of cleaning and checking your heaters, vents, shutters, the addition of insulation and how that can help you. We'll also touch briefly on lighting, irrigation, carbon dioxide injectors, and also how you should inspect your greenhouse and why you should call us for all of your grower supply needs. First, a little bit about our company. We have two campuses, one located in South Windsor, Connecticut. That is our corporate headquarters. The owners of the company, since we're a privately held company, both live in Connecticut, and so that's where also our call center is. You can see that in the top portion of the slide. And our manufacturing and distribution center, which is in Dyersville, Iowa. Dyersville is located approximately 26 miles southeast of Dubuque, and it's readily accessible off of Route 20. That, again, is also where we have our technology center and run our informative seminars that we do on a regular basis. The company itself has been around since 1979. It was started by our owners who, again, were chicken farmers and found that they were having a hard time trying to get quality products that they needed to run their business in a timely fashion. So they went off on their own and started our business. Again, here we are years later where we're not only servicing the agriculture business, but we also service horticulture, the trades, and have our full line of clear span buildings and Hercules truss arch buildings. We're owned and operated in the United States, and we are one of the leading manufacturers of greenhouses, high tunnels, and horticultural buildings, supply both the United States, North America, and in fact the whole rest of the world as well. Why winterizing is important? Well, it's a great time to evaluate all aspects of your greenhouse. Obviously, once you're slowed down from the spring, summer, and hopefully busy fall, you have a chance to regroup, think about your year, plan for your next year so that you'll be ready to go from the winter and jump into the spring. It also gives you jump on making any kind of repairs necessary, or it's a good time to think about what it was that you might have to increase or decrease based on your planting and or size-wise. Winterizing is important, obviously, because it's going to save you time, money, and energy in the long run. It protects your investment, again, which is something that's very important. If indeed you're doing any kind of growing in the greenhouse, you want to prevent any kind of winter damage. It helps, again, as I said, jump on whatever repairs might be necessary in the spring. And basically, it's just a great idea so that it keeps you ahead of the game. First, going to talk about insulation and how important it is. Why do we insulate? Well, there are many different reasons. The majority of us insulate so that we can keep our costs down. With increased insulation, there should consumption, which is going to result in saving money. It also helps so that if you do have to work in your greenhouse in the wintertime, makes it a little bit more comfortable for you to work in. And also, the installation of insulation will not only help keep your house warmer in the winter, but also will aid in keeping the house cooler in the summer. Some of the common suggestions that we give to our customers are for you to insulate the north facing wall. This can easily be done with our tech foil or our RBBR reflective insulation. Also, a 2-inch rigid styrofoam board will give you a good R value. You want to do that over any kind of fans that you're not using for winter ventilation, both inside and outside of the house. That'll prevent any kind of air from getting in or any valuable heat from getting out, again, thus saving you valuable dollars. Um, there's also a bubble wrap that's available. Bubble wrap can be installed on the inside of your greenhouse. It's usually attached to the rafters. Initially, you want to attach it with a double-sided tape, but then we do recommend that you use some form of mechanical attachment, either tech screws and washers, to keep it in place as the greenhouse heats up. If you just leave it with that double-sided tape, you're going to find that you may run into a problem with the glue not sticking as much as it should. It's a great opportunity to plug any gaps or leaks in your house with either handy foam or silicone, and that'll prevent, again, air from entering or leaking. It's a good time to either make sure that your inflation fan is blowing adequate amounts of air in between your two layers of plastic, or again, to add another layer of plastic if you're only using one single layer to add more insulation. That air space, again, about 12 inches or so, can give you an R value anywhere from a 1.7 to up to 3. Weather stripping around the doors, again, something that's very important. Again, we know that from our own homes, so that you don't have that air escaping when it's not something that you want. As far as cleaning, this is something, again, that's very important. It's a chance for you to get rid of any kind of pests or disease, any kind of pest eggs that may be current in the greenhouse. Gives you a chance to remove any kind of weeds so that you won't end up with any kind of future weed seed. Also gives you a chance to remove any kind of algae that may have formed on the inside bottom of your greenhouse. Um, Cleaner walls are going to give you better light transmission so that in the springtime you'll be ready to go. And again, it also helps to provide a pleasant work environment for you to work in. Um, it's time to just rinse and repair the greenhouse. You can use a mild dish detergent and warm water. That'll help to clean off any algae, dirt, dust, or grime. You can also use a very weak solution of bleach, 1 to 10 solution, similar to what you're going to use to sterilize or wash out your pots, to clean the walls and your benching. You want to go through and lubricate any of the gears or latches that may be on the house, your doors, your shutters, and your fans. And again, it's also a good time to take the grime and any kind of dirt that may have accumulated on your shutters or fan blades off of them. Of course, you want to make sure that all your electrical connections are not attached so that you don't worry about any kind of accidents happening. You also want to check your heaters. Again, the more efficient your heaters are, if they don't have to work as hard, you're going to end up saving fuel, and with the savings of fuel, you're going to end up saving money. Helps to keep you comfortable, and also if you are doing a winter crop, you want to make sure that the heaters are working properly so that you don't have any kind of freezing. So the easiest way to do that is to make sure that your heaters are operational. You can perform a test where you set your thermostat to go off and on to make sure that the calibrations are correct and functioning. You want to look inside the flue and make sure that that's clean and unobstructed. Make sure that there's no birds' nests or squirrels that have nested in there. Make sure it's all cleaned out and ready to go. Again, double check the set points on the heater to make sure that the correct temperature is set so that the heater will turn on and off at that temperature that you're looking to have the house set at. It's also a great idea to check your fuel lines so that there's no clogging, so that, again, when it's time for that fuel to move through those lines, you don't have to worry about any kind of downtime. You want to make sure, again, the vents are all cleaned and unobstructed. And it's also a really great idea to have a backup heater so that just in case you do have some downtime on your primary heater, you have an additional source so you don't have to worry about your plants freezing. Okay, heat conversion. Sometimes in the wintertime, it's a good time to think about what might have been, what might be, as I said. Some folks will take this opportunity to convert or think about converting over to radiant heat. It's a more efficient way to deliver heat to the roots of the plant where it's best used, and that way you're not wasting BTUs and energy by just heating the air. You can also do this under either soil or, as often is done, under concrete so that you have the full effect of that radiant heat mass heating up. The heat inside your greenhouse should remain at plant level. Heating under benches, again, decreases the amount of heat that's needed to keep your plants warm, thereby saving you money. And this is also a good place where you can add thermal blankets to the greenhouse or frost blankets, such as our agribond, so that the plants end up staying warmer with less energy used. Vents and shutters, it's important to make sure that these are covered and secured, again, so that you don't have that leaking of air getting in and out, reducing your costs. It also will keep the condensation down by doing this so that you don't end up with any kind of condensate forming on the inside or walls of your greenhouse due to temperature differentiation. It's going to prevent cold air from coming into the greenhouse, and it also gives you the chance to make sure that your drop-down curtains or roll-up curtains are tucked down nice and tight to prevent any kind of cold air from moving in. You do want to make sure, however, that you leave at least one vent uncovered. Usually it's a smaller vent if your greenhouse has been sized properly, so you can provide winter ventilation if you are indeed growing in there in the wintertime. Lighting is something that, again, is important to check. You want to make sure that all your electrical connections are good to go, all the bulbs are in working order and clean, and that if indeed you find that you used a fair amount more electricity last year than you anticipated, you might want to consider adding a light master light sensor. What that does is it actually looks at the amount of light that is available in the greenhouse and will turn your lights either on and off with a light sensor. You want to also consider LED lights, which are turning out to be a lot more economical and efficient. The initial outlay for these lights is a little bit more money than we're used to, but even compared to fluorescent lights, these end up, the return on investment is fairly quick. And again, you can target the plants with the best light combination so that you end up with healthier plants faster. You also need to take care of your irrigation and CO2 injection systems. You don't want to end up with any kind of frozen pipes, so it's best, if you're not going to be using your water to turn off the water at the source and then drain your pipes so you don't have any additional water in there. You can blow those out with air so that, again, it will prevent any kind of pipes bursting. Also, what's a good idea is to install a CO2 injection system if you're doing any kind of winter growing. And the reason that that's done is because, again, in the wintertime, you're not having as much air come in and out of the house, so there's not as much CO2 available to the plants. So if you inject CO2 into the house, you'll find that you're going to end up with a much better plant growth. As far as walking around the outside of the greenhouse is concerned, you want to take the time to make sure that you have no cracks or leaks in the glazing. If you do, you want to make sure that you plug that with either a silicone or a handy foam. If you're using polyfilm, you want to check to make sure that your steel springs are intact and holding your film down nice and tight. You also, if you have any holes, you want to take the time at this time to use some clear greenhouse repair tape to make sure that if you're inflating, there's not going to be any kind of air leak. If your greenhouse is covered in polycarbonate, you want to also make sure that the screws are tight, but you don't want them so tight that you're going to end up with any kind of dimpling in the polycarbonate. You want to just take a good look and make sure that everything's structurally sound, that the bracings are secure so that in the case of a snowstorm or wind, you want to make sure that the house is properly braced so you won't have to worry about it. Again, as was said before, you want to make sure that the roll-up or drop-down sides that you have should be readily secured, so you're going to prevent any kind of air leakage getting in and out. And finally, you want to take a look to see whether or not you've got any kind of an alarm system set up, such as a sensophone, or we currently have some power outage monitors available. That way you install one of these systems, and if the power goes off, you'll automatically be notified either through the sensophone or your smartphone. You also is a great time to put down rodent bait or traps so that you don't end up with any kind of unwanted visitors in your greenhouse for the wintertime. Again, why call us? Well, as I said before, as a one-stop shop, we can provide just about anything it is that you might need, from that layer of greenhouse film or inflation fan to any kind of rodent traps or rodenticides. As a reliable American company, we've been around for upwards of 30 years. We're not going anyplace. With our national account manager system, we like to stay with one customer so that we get to know you personally and can anticipate your needs or certainly help you in any way that we can. Currently, we're running some incredible financing programs where we have interest-free financing for 1 to 2 years. We have leasing with uh, low lease rates for orders over $10,000. And again, depending upon what it is you're looking to do, there are not only interest-free, but low interest rates, so we're here to help. I hope I've given you some insight on why it's important to prepare your greenhouse for winterization. Um, if indeed you have any questions, I will be more than happy to help you or answer any questions that I might. I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be here. Please feel free to type in your questions and I look forward to answering them. Thank you. Welcome back. We do have a few questions here that some folks have sent in. Number one we have is Susie from New Hampshire asks, what type of rodent bait would you recommend for rats? J.T. Eaton rats. It's an anticoagulant type of rodenticide, so it can be. There is a cure with vitamin C that does a great job. We also carry a product called Top Gun, which I like, and I like the Top Gun because of the fact that it's an acute poison, so it kills a little bit faster than the other rodenticides. However, there is no antidote for it, but more importantly, there's no secondary toxicity. So if you have animals such as a cat, and the cat finds the mouse or the rat and eats it or nibbles on it, you don't have to worry about your animal getting affected by it. Here's a question from Bob in Georgia. Um, how long of a process is it to switch to greenhouse radiant heating? Is it something that can be done during the winter time? Again, going back to the different types of radiant heating depends on what kind you want to do. As far as under bench heating is concerned, absolutely. You can take the time to put the PEX pipe underneath the benching and do that without a problem. As far as concrete is concerned, winter time is not a real good time to pour concrete, so I would avoid that. But you could also put the PEX pipe down on the ground and lay under either soil or a sand uh, makeup, and so that you can plant and or put your pots directly on top of that when you're ready to start. Ron up in Minnesota asks, if I use a greenhouse film, do you recommend I take it down for winter? Well, Ron, that depends. If you're heating the greenhouse, you shouldn't have to do that. Um, the heat that's generated inside the greenhouse from the sun during the day will heat it that way. And again, if you're heating at night, the snow should slide right off. However, that's one of the benefits we feel is with our rounded structures. They have a tendency to shed the snow a little bit better than the Gothic because of the fact that they have more of a severe angle on it. So if you're in a particularly snowy area and you're not going to heat your house, you do want to keep an eye on it. And if it looks as though snow is starting to accumulate, I would strongly advise going out there with a soft broom on the inside of the house and just giving it a tap. That should slide right off. If you're in a Gothic style house, again, you're going to have to keep a better eye on it so that you make sure that the snow doesn't accumulate in between the rafters, because that's when you can run into problems. Do you sell commercial size rolls of bubble wrap? Yes, indeed. Casey, we sell it by the foot, so you can buy as much or as little as you want. It comes in 6-foot widths by 125 foot would be a complete roll, or as I said, you can also purchase it by the foot. So if you're only going to insulate an area that's going to be 25 feet, you can purchase a 6 by 25 feet, have that shipped to you, and put it up and get great results. There's a question here from Jennifer. If I grow throughout the winter, is it still a good idea to secure all the vents and shutters? Again, for the most part, Jen, yes, you want to do that. However, you do need to bring some air in for winter ventilation. Winter ventilation is still important. It's not done at the same rate that summer ventilation is, whereas you're not going to replace the whole inside cubic foot amount of air as you would in the summertime, but you are going to want to bring fresh air in and ventilate some of that stagnant air out. So you want to, hopefully if you have a small vent, usually at the top of the gable of your greenhouse, you'd want to leave that unsecured so that you can move the air in and out. Another question here is, do you sell portable heaters that would easily and quickly replace a heater temporarily if one were to malfunction? Yes, indeed. A lot of the electric heaters are available, from small ones up to ones that can do a fair amount of BTUs. Some of the electric heaters do require a 220-volt connector, but there's others that do work on 110 volts. So if you lose your propane or natural gas, you can certainly do it that way. We have, as I said, a full gambit of electric heaters. We also have some propane heaters that you could use as backup. The only thing with those is that you'd have to make sure that you had adequate ventilation inside the greenhouse. You don't want to burn propane gas without some adequate ventilation. And again, here's one more question. What type of lubrication should I use to clean gears and latches? Well, I've always found that any good quality penetrating oil or a WD-40 will work adequately. And again, you can also take the time to check your wheels for your carts and your wagons. And if they have grease fittings, I'd go ahead and grease those as well. Well, it looks like those are all the questions that we have today. I do want to thank you for taking the time to spend with us. And again, if there's anything that you need that I didn't answer, please feel free to either call me or email me. I'd be more than happy to help you. Thanks for coming, and I hope you all have a great afternoon.